Yeah. What's your big idea about voting? And I agree, as you know, we've worked together in the past on same-day registration, and certainly is something that I would love to see. What about you, Lori? What's your big idea about voting?
Let's see. I guess for me, I love big ideas. I love having a large vision, but I also think it needs to be pragmatic and it needs to be practical if it's really going to transform our communities. Because if it's not practical, it's not transforming how we think about voting and all this kind of stuff. And so I kind of, I do want to say thank you to Maggie for really kind of pushing us along this road. I guess to make sure our elections are transparent, that they're available. But really, I mean, from my part of the world, I don't feel like I have any real big ideas. We're kind of more struggling with, like, we want big data. And, with the last Secretary of State, we really had a hard time getting big data. And so, like, so I'm half Navajo, coach and Zuni, but in my Navajo ship route, there's easily a couple thousand people that live in or around that area, and the data we were getting back was like 40 people that live there, and so like those are more of the types of struggles we're dealing with, and so I think for us as Indian people, we really would like to be able to continue to have our traditional heritage, values, languages, but also be able to go to Yale or Harvard or whatever, and not be caught between, you're stuck between this and that and the other. But I think things like good government, I think things like equity and fairness, like to me those are the big ideas, and I'm really shocked at how far our country has sort of lost sight of that. I mean, I think some of the political dialogue that is happening is really offensive, and it's shocking to me how fast, back to the technology, that stuff just kind of rolls out onto the national dialogue, and really kind of then how tough it is for us to do things like encourage people to vote. I mean, on some levels, like a lot of that negativity is really studied, and they do know that by being more and more negative, people get turned off and they stay home. And that's one of the things we tell our folks is they know it hurts your feelings and they want you to stay home. So if we could figure out those sorts of ways, or I guess strategies to deal with some of that stuff, I think helps us in continuing to have a vibrant, healthy country.
So good data and don't read the comments is what I'm hearing. We all know don't read the comments, right? That's just a rule for life now. Cindy, what's your big idea?
So I love big ideas. So I think I have far too many to even just name them, but
Throw them out there.
But overall, when I think of outreach and voting, I think it should be something creative, efficient, and inclusive. It should be culturally relevant to the people that you're reaching out to, and that should include respect for those people that you're encouraging to vote, and you should relate to them. And I have many memories of when I was interning in 2012 for the Obama campaign, and they brought a bunch of people from DC to Santa Fe, and they had no idea how to outreach and how to increase voter outreach in South Side Santa Fe, which is where all the immigrants live. And I just laughed because I knew how to do it. I mean, because I knew the people. So when I told them about these like weird ideas that I thought were a little weird, but it ended up working. I mean, we ended up having these events, and people would come and they actually cared because we were speaking their language, because we were understanding their issues. So if you don't know the people's issues, then how are you going to, encourage them to vote? It's outrageous and ridiculous. So if you don't know the issues, then don't go out and disrespect the people that you're asking to vote for. Or from. So I think, we really have to be culturally relevant, truly inclusive, respectful of that, and really just, open-minded about really bringing people forward regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, or, economic background. And overall, even though I am a dreamer, my thing is women, and, women in leadership is something I'm really passionate about, and women in elected office especially. So I'm very into data. So I thought, I would look up what's the 2015 report on the percent of women registered to vote here in New Mexico. So it's telling me 59.9%. And when I look at that, it just makes me really angry and really sad because where are the other half of women that are not voting, and why aren't they voting? Are we not hearing our issues being presented? Are we not being included into those ideas that politicians are bringing forward? So I think of all these things, of each individual, and just like you said, we don't like to be put in capsules of, we are just this one type of person. And as a young woman, I definitely don't want to be put in any capsule because I know that there are many young women with many different backgrounds, just like there are men, of course. But, I think we should be looking at all of them, the mothers, the daughters, the granddaughters. So really being inclusive and looking to find that missing percent. So,
Making an effort.
yeah.
Let's make an effort, right? Chris, you and I have had many conversations about big ideas. Which big idea would you like to share with the group tonight?
Well, in the context, I guess, of this conversation, I would love to figure out how to turn engaging the millennial audience into actual millennial votes, because engagement is only half the issue. I'm an operations guy. I get judged on my throughput, and so if this engagement doesn't equal voting, then we've got a small problem. In terms of how that will change New Mexico, New Mexico has its own issues. I mean, I was born in Alaska, spent the best 2 months of my life there, and then moved here to Albuquerque with my family. Have been here ever since, and we all know our issues. We all know the struggles that we face, but I don't know if I'm just optimistic or I haven't let life beat me down yet. But I think that New Mexico could literally become a great state. Rather than being at the bottom of all these lists, we could be at the top of these lists. And we have the culture, we have the community, we have the right people running for office, and I think the reason I'd like to tackle the problem of getting the young vote translated into actual voting is because if we get the right people into office, that's how you start changing the plans. If we get Secretary of State in office that truly cares about people getting to the polls and not suppressing the vote, if she cares about transparency and seeing this whole pay-to-play mentality and community go away, if we get economic development directors in there that are going to champion New Mexico small business as opposed to just spending all of our money trying to bring in these giant organizations that may or may not come, and really support the businesses that are sustaining our economy today, then this city and state really has a chance to move forward. We don't have to be on the bottom. We could be on the top. And it's only going to be by electing the right people to the office to get us to the next step. And so the big idea, how do we do this? I think it's solutions, right? It's challenging, but I think some of the data that you're starting to see through the engagement that is there on social media, what millennial individuals use social media for is really connecting, is really community. And it provides a perfect platform for a candidate to speak directly to constituents. But beyond that, it allows people within friend groups, people within business networks to become evangelists for the things that they truly champion. And so, if my friend here is very passionate about immigrant issues as well as women issues, her reach to her network is going to be much more effective than a sponsored ad on Facebook or some kind of Snapchat story or something like that. And so I would really like to mobilize social media campaigns to really get out the vote, really use a lot of the communication techniques that millennials are comfortable with to get them out there. Now, I do have to have a disclaimer. I think the circus and the sideshow is really promoted by social media because, you know, we all got that crazy uncle that throws the story on from some dark corner of the internet. So, you know, you got to be able to protect that. But ultimately, I would like to see our young people come out and vote, get the right people in the office so that we can move the state forward. That's what I would like to see.
And I just want to speak in support of that idea because, I mean, I think it's clear that if we had big ideas, the voting public would be a lot more excited than we have when we have no real clear distinction between. So why go to the trouble of voting if there's no real difference that people see in the candidates? I proposed, and I will again, a constitutional amendment to legalize cannabis, marijuana. And the opposition has largely focused on, oh, you're just doing that because you're trying to get people out to vote, and you think it'll help the Democratic Party. Well, that may be true. That's not the only reason I'm introducing it. But the point is, even the opponents of it recognize that if there were something on the ballot that made a difference in people's lives, I think it's C, really would change things. Not just in terms of revenue, but in terms of changing the way police function and all the rest of it. That, I think, would get people out to vote, and they recognize that, so they don't want to have that on the ballot. We still may be able to get it on the ballot in this coming session. We're going to try it again. But don't lose sight of the fact that there is a significant sector of the society that does not want widespread participation in the election process. They much prefer it when it's a small number of people. That's why they discourage voting. That's why they run negative campaigns, because they know that suppresses voting. And that's why they purge the rolls of anybody who has a last name that sounds vaguely minority. And yeah.
That's very true. So I'm going to ask whoever has the questions to bring them up to me. And while that's happening, speaking of big ideas, I want to take a moment to acknowledge a few people in this room. But speaking of big ideas, I'd like to acknowledge, first of all, I think one of the last big ideas that came to fruition in our state was the rail runner. And I think it's still an idea that has more to do and more to grow, but there are a few people in this room tonight that had a lot to do with that, and one of them is former Representative Dan Silva, who's the chairman of the House Transportation Committee. Thank you, Chairman. He's from Brownwood, who had a lot of work on that issue as well. And my second mom, Judith Espinosa, who worked on transportation issues and is a former Secretary of Transportation and the first Secretary of Environment for the state of New Mexico. So thank you, Judith, for being here. I'd also like to acknowledge my very dear friend Brian Colum, who may be appearing on a ballot in the Albuquerque city election coming up soon, and is a former chairman of the Democratic Party. All right, so we're going to take some questions, and to any of my staff that are out there that are actually keeping track of the time, I can't see anything, so you'll have to like come bang me over the head. But we're gonna just do questions, okay, guys? Till someone pulls the mic out of my hand. Okay, this is a good one. You know, this will sort of segue on what we were just talking about. We were talking about big ideas, and then we were also talking about millennials. And the things that they can do and the way they can engage. And I'm going to throw this out there to Cindy and or Chris. How can millennials take the conversation away from elections like the Trump versus Hillary election and engage others in conversations about local and state politics?
Well, I think it's just all about making it relevant and having them care. So then how do you make them care? So then talk to them about things that are going to affect them. So it's actually something that I sort of practice, I think, already. What I do, I train high school students to go into internships at the legislature through the Lawsuit program. And these are high school students who, many times really don't care about politics or the legislature. So my task is to make them fall in love with it. And everyone makes bets that I won't do it every year, but I've done it. So the way that I figured out how to do it was I sit them down and then I tell them, well, okay, we're gonna have a debate. I'm gonna play Republican senator, and I'm gonna be, you're gonna be lobbying me about something that you care about. So I started doing that, talking to them about education and why education was important, and then I asked them which school they were coming from. So then they would say, from Highland or from Rio Grande. And then I started saying things like, oh, you don't matter to me. I'm much more interested in the wealthier neighborhoods. The student outcomes are much better in those neighborhoods. So I really can't bring money, into your school. So then they started getting really upset. And they all raised their hand and they all wanted to participate. And they said, well, we can't let them take over our schools or our funding. Because that affects me, that affects my parents, my family, and my siblings who are coming up the pipeline. So I think if we get, to a point where it's our own skin in the game type of thing, where, we know that we're going to be taking our rights away, our rights are going to be taken away. The things that make everything very tangible, I think that's how we get them to care. That's how we care. So if you tell me, if you don't vote for this person, this is what this other person's going to do. And I think that's something that Trump has obviously done. And it's actually, I think, helped with some communities to come together because they are angry about the things that he wants to impose. And, and it's very relevant to the communities that are going to be affected. So I think just getting out to the millennials and really being simple and strategic about the facts and the things that we care about that are going to affect us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I love the question because federal politics compared to your local politics will affect your day to day. And what I would encourage, especially here in New Mexico and Albuquerque, is help them find the things that they're passionate about and give them ownership. The reality is we're losing our young people. And I go to these NEOP meetings, I go to the city conferences, and there's always the question, why are we losing our millennials to Austin or Denver or Portland, or all these cities that are the cities of today? And it's because a lot of our millennials, they either leave for economic reasons or higher education reasons, whatnot. But the reality is Albuquerque has something that those cities don't have. It has opportunity. New Mexico has opportunity for you to really make big change here in the city and the state. And it doesn't take a lot. I mean, we are a small, big state. If you need to talk to a senator, or if you need to talk to someone in power about an idea that you have, something that you're passionate about, I guarantee you within 2 or 3 friendships, you could probably make that connection. And if not, come talk to me and I'll open up my network. The idea is we've got to help our younger generation see this as a we type community as opposed to an I type community. We've got to move forward. We've got to move the projects and the businesses and the causes that we believe in forward. Otherwise, it's going to be the same old thing. So I would empower them and help them find their passion, and I would let them work.
So, funny enough, probably no surprise to anyone based on how the conversation's gone here tonight, I have a pile of questions all about the millennial generation. And I think, I was just thinking about, why that is when I looked at this pile of questions and why, this conversation has gone in this direction tonight. And I think that it's because the millennial generation is the future of this nation, right? And everybody is eager to know that this country is not just going to survive, but thrive. And we know that the millennial generation in not too many years from now is going to be running this country and making these decisions. And so I think it's really great that we're already thinking to the future. But I'm going to do one thing really quickly here. I'm going to answer a question that was specific to the voting process, which I'm uniquely qualified to answer. And then I'd like to go ahead and have us take some questions from you all directly to me or any of the panelists So be thinking of a good question. So this question is, luckily thanks to the registration opportunities tonight, I'm taken care of. However, my family lives a bit off the grid and only has a P.O. box. Can they register by mail? There are a variety of methods by which one can register to vote in the state of New Mexico now, thankfully. Of course, we now have the online voter registration system that began at the beginning of the year, which is available on the Secretary of State's website, which is a bill that I and my fellow county clerks advocated for heavily. Senator Ortiz-Pino, many other legislators supported, and the governor actually signed, which was quite amazing. And that is available to anybody with a current or expired driver's license, because it goes through the motor vehicle division process. There is also motor vehicle division registration, so anybody that goes into the MVD can become registered to vote through that process. There are paper forms still. Those still exist. They exist in abundance. They're available at my office. They're available at your local library. They're available at a variety of government agencies, and there's a variety of third-party voter registration agents out in the community doing voter registration work. They're available at the political party offices, at the campaign headquarters of the political candidates, and they're also available by calling my office at 243-VOTE, and we will put a form in the mail to anybody that asks for one, and they can mail it back in. There's a little less than 2 weeks left until the voter registration deadline. So October 11th is the deadline to register to vote for the November 8th general election. Do not let any of your friends, family, neighbors, colleagues, cousins, random stuff, people in your life not register and vote. This election is far too critical. So we really want to make sure we have full participation. And if you have any more questions about that, feel free to ask. Yes?
Yes, hi, Gary Wilson, Veterans Party of America. New Mexico has been historically anti-third party. This is both for you and the state representative. How come it's so difficult for a third party candidate to get on the ballot? In there, it actually says that we only allow serious candidates on the ballot. Who determines that? Not you, no disrespect, it's the voters. Why can't the voters decide who the candidate be?
That's a great question. Do you want to, please, Senator?
It used to be very easy for third-party candidates to get on the ballot.
Not anymore.
Until they won. Once they won, and they won several elections, then, or they garnered enough support that it threatened the Democrats, really, was the ones that were threatened by the third party. Then the Democrats said, well, we can't have that happen. We've got to tighten things up. And so they made it incredibly difficult for a third-party candidate to get on the ballot.
Well,
I don't think that's good. I mean, I think that's a really
unconstitutional.
Well, it should be. I mean, if it is tested in the courts, it may very well be found.
Right. Well, can't we?
I think that you know, if you feel strongly, you ought to. I don't think it's a smart thing for the Democrats to do, and I would certainly support.
Well, I'm not a Democrat.
I'm
not a Democrat. I am a third-party centrist. I believe both sides have a good solution. Why can't, 22% of the state is independent. Where's their voice?
Well,
Where is their voice? They can't even get on a ballot. They can't even vote in the primaries.
Well, you're arguing that we should let them get on
Yes.
more easily, and I'm in agreement with you.
Thank you.
The reason we don't let them get on more easily is because it was fine until they won something. Then all of a sudden it became too damaging to the political system as we know it, and so we changed the rules. I think if you feel strongly enough about it, you ought to challenge the constitutionality of it. I suspect you'd win. And I don't think what we have now makes a lot of sense, to be honest. I think we should change that.
Well, that's the thing. All we want is fair representation.
Absolutely. So I'm going to make a radical proposal here, and believe it or not, I was actually told that we're almost out of time. So I'm going to make this radical proposal that we're going to wrap up. Thank you for that question, Gary.
And thank you for answering it.
Of course. So often I talk about, and I have here tonight, about the need to get closer and closer to full participation. in our electoral process. The more robust participation we have, the healthier our democracy, the more reflective of the people of this country and this state our government will be, and the more responsive to the people will our elected leaders be. We started off the night, very first thing, boom. Senator Ortiz-Pino talked about the fact that the main thrust for him in bringing forth any piece of legislation is when his constituents bring something to his attention, when a group of people bring something to his attention. And any elected official in the state is going to be more responsive when they are approached by somebody in their district who votes or by a group of people who vote. Period, end of story. That is the reality of our democracy. So this is the key. We need to get more people out to the polls. And your third party centrist group, the Veterans Party,
Yes, ma'am.
and other political parties that are not the two major parties, and independents, and voters of all stripes, need to get out to the ballot box. I don't care if folks are in that ballot box holding their nose utterly. The only way we are going to get elected leaders, we have a few gems. We have the Jerry Ortiz-Pinos up there. We have a few people, and I count myself among them. I am willing to make decisions and to push for policies that take power away from the office that I hold for the better of the state. In other words, or for example, I'd like to see a statewide ethics commission in New Mexico. And that would take away the power of overseeing the ethics process for the Secretary of State and give it to an independent commission. But the point that I am trying to make here is that there are not that many elected leaders in the state that are willing to do that. Am I right?
We're not going to get it done.
Right. So we need to elect more, and the way to do that is for as many people to get out to the polls and have their voice heard and to push those kinds of policies moving forward. That is how it's going to happen, is with that full participation. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. If any of our panelists would care to make any final comments tonight, I really want to thank you all. Lori, please.
I just want to say that, with regards to the millennial, the third party, as Native folks, we're small in our population, which has made me think a lot about the idea of third parties and what would need to happen. But I really think it's important for us to begin thinking if we're going to have that third party, that they really need to learn how to utilize their power. Because I think the whole Bernie situation was an interesting learning lesson, especially that since so many millennials were supportive of him. And he was smart about it. He went in there and he fought with Hillary and got a lot of his agenda and her agenda. That's not necessarily always what an independent party would want to do, but learning how to play ball, like when you recognize you are the small guy in the block or whatever, where do you decide to weigh in and put your weight, and then still reserving your ability and capacity to move back into a position of we're still pushing for our own, third party or third voice. But I think, the idea then that Bernie was able to get from the Hillary agenda, I think is so important, but a lot of us just, and I actually will challenge millennials. I think there's a real lack of respect for that without really understanding that that's a huge feat and that's a real victory that I think we don't embrace. And so I think it's important for us as U.S. citizens, Americans, or Native Americans, or however we want to talk about ourselves, to really embrace this idea that if we are going to be a democracy, then we really do need to consider the maturing of our political analysis and movements, and be open-minded to understand what everybody else is doing. So I think that actually has a lot to say, because just the last thing, so I was listening to Barney Frank, and he was talking about him as a young person, and he was talking about his politicization, but one of the things he talked about was, there was the Occupy movement, and then there was the Tea Party, and the Tea Party understood that the voting ballot box was where they got power, right? And so they've been able to sort of hijack the Republican Party, which I think is really important for us to begin to think about and look at in terms of what type of political leaders are we choosing, who are we going to support. And so I just want to say thank you, Maggie. You know, we do offer you our support, and we hope you will continue to be a champion of good government, of transparency, and open doors for all of us.
Thank you, Lori. And Mr. Jones, you get to hold me accountable, all of you, right?
The current Secretary of State, the acting Secretary, interim, who is a Republican, sent out 450,000 cards to people that, I'm not sure where he got the list, but these are residents of New Mexico who were not currently registered to vote. And he said, you may be eligible to vote. Why don't you take a look at it, and here's a simple way to do it. You can do it online and blah, blah, blah. And immediately, I think something like over 10,000 have already registered in response to that. Much bigger turnout and increase in the voting rolls than any of our efforts have been able to generate as we go around and sit at the state fair and all the other approaches. They're out there, we have to be open to it. Maggie's opponent immediately attacked her fellow Republican for trying to get more people to register to vote. Big idea on her part is we should be scared, we should limit who votes, we should not try to get everybody to vote. Big idea on Mary's side is, on Maggie's side is, let's get everybody out to vote.
Exactly. All right. Thank you all so much. This has been an amazing night. Thank you, panelists. We appreciate it. And if you do nothing else after you leave here tonight, please vote. Thank you.